good morning, everybody. Today is the second day of our presentation, and semester two students are making presentations. Today, they are going to read presentations on literature, English literature, published between 1950 and 2000. That is post Second World War literature. This is the morning slot, and let us see who are going to make presentations in this slot. Let us also have an overview of their topics. Let me share the screen. So we will have first presentation today by Hina, and that will be on concept of bad faith in waiting for Godot. Hetal's presentation will be on George Orwell's 1984, a warning for the present and future. 1984 is your title, so that should be separately marked in inverted comma. The other is a part of your topic, so that you can keep outside this inverted commas. And the space also, there is an extra space before that, that also need to see. Gopi's presentation on the role of memory in an artist of the floating world. Ghanshyam's on the unreliable narrator in an artist of the floating world. Gayatri's presentation on significance of Lucky's speech. Drashti's on the dangers of surveillance in context of the novel 1984. Bhavyata will present on waiting for government exams, like waiting for Godot. Avani's on God is dead. In which context that you can still make clear in this, if it is connected with specific text or generally about the 20th century literature. Anjali's presentation on modernism and postmodernism in Waiting for Godot, and finally Aarti's presentation will be on Waiting for Godot as an absurd theater. Okay, so let us start with the first presentation of the day. Yes, Hina, you can start your presentation. Yes, it is disconnected or what happened? Is it the net is disconnected or the window is closed?
Good morning, everyone. Uh, on occasion of our presentation season, today I'm going to deal with my presentation, and the topic of my presentation is concept of bad faith in waiting for Godot. This is my personal information. Those are some points which I am going to discuss in my presentation. I'm going to discuss about the author, then introduction of the play, then what is bad faith, and Sartre on bad faith. Then going to discuss concept of bad faith in waiting for Godot, and at the end conclusion. I would like to start my presentation with about the author Samuel Beckett. Samuel Beckett was author, critic, and playwright, winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1969. He wrote in both French and English, and is perhaps best known for his plays, especially Attendant Godot. Samuel Beckett was the last modernist writer, and he is leading figure in theater of absurd. And his literary works deals with tragicomedy, experience of life, then uselessness, and black comedy. Um Samuel Beckett came from a Protestant Anglo-Irish background. At the age of 40, he went to the Portora Royal School in what became Northern Ireland, a school that catered to the Anglo-Irish middle classes. From 1923 to 1927, he studied Romance languages at Trinity College, Dublin, where he received his bachelor's degree. After a brief spell of teaching in Belfast, he became a reader in English at the École Normale Supérieure in Paris in 1928. Then, introduction of the play. Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot is a play about two tramps with rather exotic names of Vladimir and Estragon. They stand beside the road near a tree, which is dead in Act 1, and they wait there for Godot. They are not certain whether they are at the right place or that this is the right day, nor are they sure whether Godot is coming or what they asked him for or whether they have his name right. But they wait. There is just one set, if we may use the name set for that rock and that emaciated looking tree, which are the only points of reference in the empty extent of saints. So this is a play. This play is around mainly two characters, Vladimir and Estragon. They are continuous waiting for Godot. They don't know about if he is came or not, but they uselessly and without any purpose, they are just waiting for Godot. What is bad faith? In Sartre's On Bad Faith, Leslie Stevenson has made a careful attempt to formulate the Sartrean notion of bad faith. According to Stevenson, someone in bad faith is she reflecting denies some state of affairs of the truth of which she is reflectively aware. And Jeffrey Gordon has countered with the criticism, although Stevenson's analysis of Sartre is correct. It is a position which is philosophically indefensible. Jeffrey Gordon has described bad faith as a lie to oneself. Then Sartre on bad faith. For Sartre, bad faith is not a case of a person being mistaken. Rather, it is more to do with falsehood. Sartre believes that an individual who is bad faith is being false to themselves and that at some level they realize this. Therefore, the individual not only knows that they are in bad faith but intentionally acts in this way. To understand Sartre's concept of bad faith, we must look at his view on the self and freedom. Sartre believes that existence precedes essence and that fundamentally we are nothingness. What Sartre means by this is that we are not concrete selves in the same way that objects are objects are. Sartre believes that as human beings we are obliged to create and recreate ourselves through our interactions with the world and others. Then this obligation is due to the freedom of having no fixed self and being able to be with whatever we choose. This freedom to choose ourselves result in anguish, and it is this anguish in turn which reveals our freedom. There are two modes of bad faith for Sartre. The first is whether a person denies his or her freedom and acts if they are a thing or an object, and the second mode where a person misinterpret the evidence presented and does not draw the implied conclusion. Then, the concept of bad faith in waiting for Godot. In this play, there are two characters, Vladimir and Estragon. They are an example of existentialism concept of bad faith. They are continuous waiting for Godot. They experience meaninglessness and they are useless and they are waiting for Godot without any purpose. In Beckett's play, the events become both paradoxical and deceiving as the two protagonists try to give meaning to their lives. Their multiple conversations about death are serious at times and hilarious at others as they try to hang themselves. Then the pants of Estragon fall down, causing them to burst into laugh. Death is presented as their bad faith after they realize that there will be no Godot coming for them. In this play, Estragon wants to live his life, but he cannot because he had to wait with Vladimir for Godot. On other side, Vladimir just want to waiting for Godot because he was necessarily wanted to do that. Then, the belief in this bad faith and the hopes the two characters build around it leads to a ridiculous situation that is irrational and deceivingly funny. Death is displaced from its meaning as an end of life and turned into an end of struggle, particularly that of finding the meaning of life. The ridiculousness of the situation appears in the fact that death becomes a hope in itself rather than a pain. To conclude, we can say that Vladimir and Estragon, the two characters, are continuously waiting for Godot. They have bad faith that one day He will come and he will give him a better life, but nothing will happen. Uh, 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 and the death is presented as their bad faith after they realize that there will be no Godot coming for them. These are my works cited. Thank you. And now I am open for question. So anyone have question, you can ask.
Now, my question is that justify how Vladimir and Estragon have bad faith in waiting for Godot.
In this play, Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett, Vladimir and Estragon, uh, they are representing as existentialism concept of bad faith. They uh, they are in the entire play. We know that they are just waiting for Godot. They don't know about more about Godot, but they just wanted to wait for him because they believe that he can make and he can give them a better life.
Hina, my question is that what is represented by the concept of bad faith in waiting for the Godot?
In this play, in this play, Estragon and Vladimir, they are blindly waiting for Godot. They are doing useless and meaningless things in entire play. We know that bad faith is something that we have. Don't know about more that thing, but we just blindly rely on that. In this play, Vladimir and Estragon just blindly waiting for Godot because they thought that Godot is God for them, and he gave him a better future and uh, something that something that they wants. Thank you.
Good noon to all of you. On the second day of presentation in paper number 107, I am going to deal with the topic in George Orwell's 1984, A Warning for the Present and Future. This is my personal information. This slide is about the roadmap of the entire presentation, in which I am going to elaborate an introduction of the writer, brief overview about the novel, Orwell's political views, examination of the political and social issues raised in the novel, Orwell's 1984 as a warning for the future, and conclusion. So, let's begin with first the introduction of the writer. George Orwell, pseudonym of Eric Arthur Blair, English novelist, essayist, and critic, famous for his novels Animal Farm, written in the year 1945 and 1984. In 1949, the latter a profound anti-utopian novel that examines the dangers of totalitarian rule. His ambition was to create long social novels, but he also tried almost every other kinds of writing. But he mainly wrote about history and politics. So George Orwell's main interest lies in history and political things. George Orwell perfected his rhetorical arsenal and lucid but flexible prose style during the political battles of the 1930s and 1940s. In the works like Animal Farm and 1984, both the novels reflect the political thoughts and ideas of George Orwell. Although Orwell's ability as a descriptive writer is acknowledged, his acknowledgement, his ability as a storyteller is also one of the popular features of the book. So, along with that, here we can understand that. George Orwell, in most of the novels of George Orwell, there is a description about biting criticism and in composition, total composition of totalitarianism. And he was in favor of rather we can say social, in which class distinction was not there. And along with that, he also produced literary criticism and poetry. A brief overview of the novel. 1984, also published as 1984 novel by English author George Orwell, published in the year 1949 as a warning against totalitarianism. The chilling dystopia made a deep impression on readers, and his ideas entered mainstream culture in a way achieved by very few books. The book's title and many of its concepts, such as Big Brother and the thought police, thought crime, are instantly recognized and understood, often as bywords for modern social and political abuses. Its depiction of a state where daring to think differently is rewarded with torture, where people are monitored every second of the day, and where party propaganda trumps free speech and thought, is a sobering reminder of the evils of unaccountable governments. So, the novel 1984 by George Orwell is all about the warning against the totalitarianism. Now, as we all know, what is dystopia fiction? The dystopian fiction is a fiction which reflects an oppressive government, and we cannot keep continuous eye on every human beings, but in this novel this theme is also presented. And dystopia means everything is not perfect, or everything is very imperfect, or rather we can say that night, it also reflects about the nightmares, that what will happen in the future with the human beings. George Orwell's political views. In the essay of George Orwell, Why I Write, published in 1947, he himself says that I do not think one can assess a writer's motives without knowing something of his early development. His subject matter will be determined by the age he lives in, at least true in tumultuous revolutionary ages like our own. George Orwell was a political writer, and according to him, that by circumstances under which he has become aware of his political loyalties. So we can understand that it is the circumstances which lead George Orwell towards the ideas of political things. He says, every line of serious work that I have written since 1936 has been directly or indirectly against totalitarianism and for democratic socialism. There are two significant major events have great influence on Orwell's political thoughts, and they are, the first one is the Russian Revolution, and the second one is the Spanish Civil War between the year 1936 and 1939. So these are the two major, we can say, incidents or events that played a vital role in shaping the literary career of George Orwell. Orwell described him as a pro-socialist. He was longing for was a society in which there would be no class distinction, and he named his ideal ideology democratic socialism. So George Orwell wants a kind of society in which there were no kind of any restrictions, or also we can say that no class distinction was there. The ideological basis of the revolution was taken from the philosophy of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Examination of the political and social issues raised in the novel. This novel explores a very powerful satire on the political and against oppressive government rulers as well as social hypocrisies. Harold L. Berger opinions that the prominent figure of the novel is that the dictatorship of the party whose object is power, the execution of brainwashing of descendant, the divorce from values and memory of the past, where people are destructive of the capacity to think through the perversion of language and denigration of self-esteem. And we can consider this point through the character of Winston Smith, who is the protagonist of the novel. This novel presents a very dark and gloomy picture of the society. The projected world of 1984 is a technically advanced society, as also we have seen in the movie that for the surveillance, how they continue keeps an eye on the every aspects of human being. Orwell shows that society where governments monitors and control on every aspects of human beings. So for keep and continue eye on every human being, and for surveillance they used so many technological things. George Orwell's 1984 as a warning for the future. The novel 1984 clearly depicts the warning for the present time and future time also. Orwell's strongest criticism of communism was its failure to interpret human motives. The society which Orwell created most perfectly expressed freedom by governing without laws. In study of George Orwell's 1984, one of the we can say critic Robert F. Gleckner stated that Orwell's purpose was neither to prophecy nor merely to attack the Soviet system. This novel can be best considered as a warning of what could happen if socialism became a political system by means of which a small minority became a powerful totalitarian group. So we can understand that the Winston Smith also think that we cannot live with the situation throughout the time. He also wants to bring change, but somehow it is not happened because the continuous torturing done by Big Brother party. This novel depicts a ruined world but by learning from George Orwell, perhaps one can prevent this from happening in our present day and future also. And that is what Orwell wants to convey us through this novel. Conclusion. In conclusion, this novel resembles a continuous watch on every human being. It questions about the freedom and independent thinking of people and how do they feel about all kinds of things. As we have seen that if someone will put any kind of restrictions on us, it became very much difficult for us. The conditions of the citizens were very miserable and pathetic. The citizens are conditioned, monitored, and made to live in constant and eternal fear without any protest. They all merely exist in this cruel world. The citizens are conditioned through coercive method. They lived under a sense of perennial fear, and that is why it questioned the motives and principles of the state. So because of this totalitarian and surveillance, people continue are in the fear, and they do not have any kind of protest for that. Okay, so these are my references which I have used, and now you can ask me questions.
Hetal, my question is that what is the message of political satire throughout this novel?
Okay, so through the novel, George Orwell wants to convey us that if this kind of surveillance or totalitarian will remain as it is, then it would be become very and very much difficult for all the human beings, and that is why he satirizes on all these aspects in this novel.
Hetal, my question for you is that in which way George Orwell felt that 1984 is warning for future. Is there any personal view of George Orwell?
Okay. Yes, then if we consider or if we look at it from the perspective of historical context or background of the novel, then we can understand that George Orwell felt this novel as a warning for the future because his past experiences in school, which are also responsible in one or the other way. Because from the childhood he had some kinds of bad experiences in the schools and about this totalitarian surveillance or other kinds of things, and that is why he put all these things in his novel and wants to convey the message to his readers. Thank you.
Hello, dear friends. I am Gopi Dervaliya. Today, I am going to discuss the role of memory in An Artist of the Floating World, written by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is my personal information. Table of contents. First topic is about the author Kazuo Ishiguro. Second is about the novel, the role of memory in an artist of the floating world, and then conclusion. About the author, Kazuo Ishiguro was born in Nagasaki, Japan in 1954 and moved to Britain in 1960. He attended the University of Kent at Canterbury and the University of East Anglia. To date, he has published three novels. First is Pale View of Hills. Second is An Artist of the Floating World, and the third is The Remains of the Day. All of which have received literary awards. Pale View of Hills won the Winfield Holtby Prize of the Royal Society of Literature, and An Artist of the Floating World won the 1986 Whitebread Book of the Year Award, and The Remains of the Day won the Booker Prize, Britain's top literary award. His latest book, The Remains of the Day, won the 1989 Booker Prize, Britain's most prestigious literary award. About the novel, Kazuo Ishiguro wrote An Artist of the About the novel, Kazuo Ishiguro wrote An Artist of the Floating World in 1986 that is set in World War II. The novel is divided into four sections by using time symbols. First is October 1948, second is April 1949, third is November 1949, and then June 1950. Ono is leading a conflicted life due to his memories in the present time. The main character Masuji Ono is an old painter and recollects his past life by recollecting his memories. He is depressed with the changes that happen after World War II in Japan. He does not like the changes that occur in the cultural value and the system of education. Ono thinks that the behavior related to his paintings has changed in the present time, and he does not like the impact of Western culture or Japanese culture. The career which Ono has before a war is destroyed due to war and affects his reputation. Ono considers him guilty for the death of his wife Michiko and son Kenji during the war. Kazuo Ishiguro explores how memories affect the life of human beings in the present time. The main protagonist of the novel is Masuji Ono, who plays the role of father and grandfather. The novel illustrates the notion of Japanese culture, the conflict in generations, and the loss and World War II with the help of reminiscence with the reflection of memories in his life. The character of Ono explains his sense of guilt, and he worked in the nationalist government in the time period of war. Firstly, explores how the characters of the novel suffer or live a conflicted life because of memories, and secondly, how, with the help of recollections of memories and rumination, the narrator interprets the whole story of to the readers. The role of memory in the novel. Kazuo Ishiguro in the novel, An Artist of the Floating World, explains that through recollections of memories, how human beings' role changes in that particular atmosphere of the particular society. The concept of memory in the life of Ono is very important because his memories are a burden on him in his present life. Kazuo Ishiguro, through his novel, explain the life journey of Ono with the help of his memories of past and rumination that affects the present time of his life. Ono's memories affect his life in the context of his daughter's marriage, the impact of Western culture on his grandson, and the failure of Japan in the war. Memory is a very useful and interesting device when writing a story. It is difficult to even imagine a story without any memories, but making full use of the characteristics of memory can certainly enhance the quality of a story. In all of Ishiguro's novel, memory plays a very important role. Ishiguro has named three reasons for why he likes to work with memory. First is the technical advantages, second is the texture, and third is the thematical interesting nature. Memory is not only useful as a way of keeping the attention of the reader and controlling the mood of the novel. If the story is told completely chronologically, it is likely that the different part of the story are marked by the predominant mood of that period. Memory offers more control than chronology. The term memory has been defined by a number of psychologists, philosophers, and thinkers. Amongst them, Tim Woods and Peter Middleton denote memory is a means of overcoming the limitations of the human condition as it is understood in contemporary culture by making the past appear once again in the present, despite its temporal and possibly spatial distance. Memory can create the illusion of a momentary return to a lost past, and its operations also articulate the complex relationship between past, present, and future in human consciousness. The important role memory plays in establishing the sense of identity can hardly be exaggerated. Ono recalls his memories of past in his conversation with Shintaro and tells him to face the past, whereas in his case, he is not able to accept his actions accountability that he has done in the past and says that I said, why don't you simply face up to the past? The other characters of the novel always question the memories of Ono. Ono recollects the memory of the conversation with Setsuko, his daughter. Ono has a conflict with his daughter Setsuko in the context of a marriage of Noriko. In the early part of the novel, an artist of the floating world, Setsuko says that post-war gives him defame only because of his nationalist thoughts. She tells him that these thoughts are not good for his reputation and for the marriage of Noriko. In the novel, Ono remembers the old days and thinks that young men have not that much bad identity. He thinks that they have a good heart and says that I feel a certain nostalgia for the past and the district as it used to be, but to see how our city has been rebuilt, how things have recovered so rapidly over these years, fills me with genuine gladness. Our nation, it seems, whatever mistakes it may have made in the past, how has now another chance to make a better go of things. One can only wish these young people well. The concluding lines explain the turning point of the protagonist's behavior in the novel. Ono feels always alone after the war, whether in thoughts, culture, and generation gap. He feels isolation in Japan among the young generation. He dislikes them because they follow the new values of American culture. Ono always maintains distance from young people because of his past futures. Noriko is married to a alleged man whose name is Taro Saito. At the end of the novel, Setsuko tells her father that now he is free from his guilt. Ono suffers in his life because of his past deeds, but now he is aware of his actions. He recalls his old past memories to satisfy his guilt. These are my work citations, and now you can ask me questions.
Gopi, my question is how can you say that memory plays a vital role in Ishiguro's novels?
Yes. In this novel, An Artist of the Floating World, the main character Masuji Ono, memory plays a vital role in Ishiguro's novel that. as I mentioned in my slide, that memory is a very useful and interesting device, right, when writing a story. And also Ishiguro has three reasons for why he liked to work with memory. First is the texture, the second is the thematically interesting nature, and third is the uh, technical advantages. So we can say that memory plays a vital role in Ishiguro's novel.
Gopi, my question is, what does Masuji Ono reflect? Why does Masuji Ono reflect his past in this work? In his work, An Artist of the Floating World.
Yes, the main character of this novel, Masuji Ono, reflects his past in An Artist of the Floating World. That in order to terms with the order to comes to terms with his actions, and to understand has they understand have they and his past, in order to come to terms with his actions, and to understand has they affected in affected in his with his life, and also those around him. So Masuji Ono reflects his past in this work.
Hello everyone, my name is Katariya Ghanshyam, and today's my topic of presentation is the unreliable narrator in the novel An Artist of the Floating World. This is my introduction, table of content. In this presentation, I'm going to deal with points author's introduction, the introduction to the novel An Artist of the Floating World, Masuji Ono as a narrator, and some lines from the novel. The author of the novel, Kazuo Ishiguro. He is a British author born in Nagasaki in Japan on 8th November 1954. And in 1974, he enrolled in the University of Kent in Canterbury, and attained the degree of a Bachelor's of Arts in English and Philosophy. He won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2017 for his works that reflects the uncovered abyss beneath our illusory sense of connection with the world. His famous works are An Artist of the Floating World, The Remains of the Day, The Unconsoled, When We Were Orphans, Never Let Me Go, and The Buried Giant. An Artist of the Floating World. The novel was first published in 1986 in UK in English language. The novel is a historical fictional novel set in post World War Japan and is narrated by Masuji Ono, an aging painter who looks back on his life and how he has lived it. The title of the novel is based on the art form of the ukiyo-e, that is a Japanese painting. Masuji Ono. He is an unreliable narrator, and that his credibility of telling the truth is compromised. Masuji Ono is unsure about whatever he says, and the first person narrative of the novel gets caught up the reader into his uncertainties. For this, the author of the novel have once said in his an interview that it is a murkiness of the narrator, and the novel and story featuring unreliable narration have the characters, other characters, uh, and their speech and body language typically serves as a correction of the narrator's distorted perception of and interpretation of the novel that we will see. Unreliability of the narrator, the loss of memory of Ono leaves the reader chasing after elusive significance, and though Ono use language evasively, he is often betrayed and ends deceived. But most of the time, he says, "I am certain, I am sure," but the reader remains uncertain and unsure. This unreliability we can see with this example of his grandson Ichiro, that Ichiro is taken by his grandfather to see a film about a monster. Firmly kept his in throughout the movie. He keeps his eyes closed, and once he is back at home, he narrates his version of the film that he has not even seen. Uh, in similar way, his grandfather relates incident and significance of which he still has not seen. And the latter, the tendency to indirection and decide, and one wonders whether to what degree Ono's narration is instant of recovered, reconstituted memory. We can see the unreliability through this example from the dialogues between Ono and his older daughter Setsuko. That first, when Ono recalls the meeting with Dr. Saito, he believes that he recalled him. He called him a great artist, as he says that he said a great honor to have an artist of your stature in our neighborhood. But when he interact with his daughter Setsuko, she denies that Dr. Saito didn't recognize him as an artist, and he didn't even know him. Then this is also an example, and as he first says that Setsuko gave him advice to take precautionary steps, but when at the climax of the novel, the daughter of Ono denies that she didn't say that such a thing to do. This is my work cited. Thank you. Now you can ask me questions.
Ghanshyam, my question is that how does the narrator's unreliability contribute to the overall theme of the novel?
Throughout the novel, the unreliability stays, and as a reader progress in the novel to read further and further, they get to know that the narration that Ono provides is mostly unreliable, and they also tries to find and correction in other characters, such like his daughter Setsuko.
Ghanshyam, my question is, can we say that as a reader, we convince what Masuji Ono tell us in the novel? What Masuji Ono wants to convey us? Can we rely on that?
The unreliable narrator is not that they told everything false or untruth, but their most of the uh, narration are mostly unreliable. So we cannot say that what he tell is always false, but sometime it those things are unreliable, and we have to check it throughout the other characters.
Hello everyone. On the second day of our presentation, I am dealing with the topic the significance of lucky speech in waiting for Godot. These are my personal informations. The roadmap of the presentation is first introduction and about author, then language in waiting for Godot, then Lucky's character as submissive slave, then analysis of Lucky speech. A Lucky speech is divided into three parts, then overview of Lucky speech and conclusion and work citation. Lucky, one of the four main characters of Bucket's Waiting for Godot, is just such a man babbling his way to silence. His speech in Act 1 is a continuous run on of unpunctuated, idiotic words and phrases. Lucky speech is as carefully constructed as the play itself, and its meaning reinforces the themes of the play. The speech not only is absurd, it argues for absurdity. The speech has three distinct parts. Part 1 and 2 are discrete units, each with its own recognition syntax, as many more FSIC interjection than the first two parts, and is richer in poetic imagery, connotative of death, decline, and pathos. Then about author Samuel Beckett. He was born in 13 April, it is questionable, in 1906 at Dublin, Ireland, and died in 22nd December 1989 at Paris, France. He was an author, critic, and playwright, winner of Nobel Prize for Literature in 1969. He wrote in both French and English and is perhaps best known for his play, especially An Attendant Godot, 1952, Waiting for Godot. These are his notable works. Then language in Waiting for Godot that used by Samuel Beckett. Samuel Beckett was well known for his language. In Waiting for Godot, the catalyst of speech are silence and pause. We could find so many silence and pauses, and these silence and pauses are not only for the absurdity, but it is said so many things. Silence breaks the continuity of words and conveys meaning in its totality. The silence in Beckett's plays effectively bracket the term an audience might adopt in order to understand them. The meaning is communicated by the intervals between words. Lucky's repetitious, bombastic, pseudo-scientific speech that Beckett congeals the desegregation of the rational language inaugurated by Vladimir's playful dealing with quotation. Here, unmediated speech is used against the mediated language representative of conventional literary, religion, and scientific discourses. Then the Lucky's character. According to Martin Eslin, Lucky is a submissive slave. Lucky not only carries Pozo's heavy luggage and even the whip with which Pozo beats him, he also dances and thinks for him, or did so in his prime. Lucky taught Pozo all higher value of life, like beauty, grace, truth of the first water. Pozzo and Lucky represent the relationship between body and mind, the material and the spiritual side of man, with the intellect subordinate to the appetites of body. Then analysis of Lucky's speech with the reference of Atkins. Slam Atkins tried to define the speech in three parts. So we will understand this speech in three parts. First, we'll see the video of part one.
Given the existence as uttered forth in the public works of Puncher and Watman of a personal God, qua, 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 with white beard, qua, 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 outside time, without extension, who from the heights of divine apathia, divine athambia, divine aphasia, loves us dearly, with some exceptions, for reasons unknown, but time will tell. And suffers like the divine Miranda with those who, for reasons unknown, but time will tell, are plunged in torment, plunged in fire, whose fire flames if that continues, and who can doubt it, will fire the firmament, that is to say, blast hell to heaven. So blue, still, and calm. So calm with a calm which, even though intermittent, is better than nothing, but not so fast.
So, if we see the first part, the attributes of the personal god of religion who uttered forth in a revelation are here mixed with those of the god of speculative theology and philosophy, whose existence must be discussed. God suffer with mankind, but simultaneously has the classical theological attributes of impassionability or aphasia, as well as two mock attributes deriving from 20th century skepticism. Unsurprisability is known as athambia, and silence as aphasia. The pressure is on. And Lucky's god is in hot water. The Lucky referred qua is is scholastic philosophical jargon. Pozzo has used the term correctly a little earlier. Quaqua also punch on the French kaka. Lucky also referred puncher and voteman. On the surface, fictitious academic scholar, and their public work are their published writing in their field. At the same time, they are motormen, their public works being their jobs. Voteman runs an electric tram, while puncher punches the tickets in keeping with the theological context of part 1. They are also inspired writer whose works are the Old and New Testament. The fire and torment, maybe earthly suffering or the pains of hell. Vladimir had already confused death and hell. Then Miranda is from the Testament. Then part 2.
So fast, and considering what is more, that as a result of the labors left unfinished, crowned by the Academy of Anthropometry of Essie and Posse of Testu and Cunard, it is established beyond all doubt, all other doubt than that which clings to the labors of men, that as a result of the labors unfinished of Testu and Cunard, it is established as hereinafter, but not so fast, for reasons unknown, that as a result of the public works of Puncher and Watman, it is established beyond all doubt, that in view of the labors of Vartov and Belcher left unfinished for reasons unknown, of Testu and Cunard left unfinished, it is established what many deny, that man and Posse of Testu and Cunard, that man in Essie, that man in Short, that man in Brief, in spite of the strides of alimentation and defecation, is seen to waste and pine. Waste and pine, and concurrently, simultaneously, what is more, for reasons unknown, in spite of the strides of physical culture, the practice of sports such as tennis, football, running, cycling, swimming, flying, floating, riding, gliding, conating, camogie, skating, tennis of all kinds, dying, flying, sports of all sorts, autumn, summer, winter tennis of all kinds, hockey of all sorts, penicillin and succedanea, in a word, I resume, and concurrently, simultaneously, for reasons unknown, to shrink and dwindle. In spite of the tennis, I resume flying, gliding, golf over 9 and 18 holes, tennis of all sorts, in a word, for reasons unknown in Peckham, Fulham, Clapham, namely concurrently, simultaneously, what is more for reasons unknown, but time will tell, to shrink and dwindle. I resume Fulham, Clapham, in a word, the debt loss per capita since the death of Bishop Berkeley being to the tune of 1 inch 4 ounce per capita, approximately, by and large, more or less, to the nearest decimal, good measure, round figure, stark naked in the stocking feet in Connemara, in a word, for reasons unknown, no matter what matter, the facts are there. So fast, and consider.
So this section is built on a self-repeating structural device similar to that of Vladimir's dog song. There are 4 verses, each with 2 parts as a result, and it is established. Lucky wants to go from the introductory that to the concluding that. In this part, we could find the use of that so many times by Lucky. But each time he says it is established that this that which wants to be the concluding that becomes instead another introductory that, so that the first part of his argument, the part which is trying to get to the concluding that, is repeated 3 times over before it breaks free of the cycle and proceed to main. The quadruple repetition of that man form a coda to the 4 verses and brings it in the concluding west and pines. Each section of the refrain ends with a parenthetical doubting or denial of what has just been established. This coupling of contradiction has already been noticed in the theology of part 1 and will recur in part 2, part C. He also referred many philosophers in this part, like Fadro and Bulger, are from Black Fragment about nobody when Clockstock, England defined other dirty puns make use of English, French, and Latin. Anthropometry is literally the measure of a man who is short and brief. Part 2b, the reference to time and place introduce cycles in this various games that shows the rationality of human being and enlightenment of human being, but that all are failed in this time. The cycle of the seasons in accurate with the entropy of the play hasn't the strength to run full course and sticks on winter. For the form, compare the reference to place in part 3. The cycle of place is Peckham, Fulham, Clapham stations on the circular London subway. The bicycle on the bucket's favorite sub symbol, a big wheel with a little symbols can perhaps be seen in this line. The London subway is laid out like a big wheel with a little wheel side it. Ready or spokes cannot the outer rim with the inner circle, thus forming a perfect bicycle wheel. The large rim and the small axle also mirror the structure of Godot, with its second act or revolution weaker than its first. Tennis is a game of back and forth, repetitious and hence resembling a cyclical events. Didi and Gogo have already played it with words. Golf is a game of twice 9 holes, hence all repetitious and cyclical. Cycling introduced Beckett's bicycle explicitly. Then part 2C. Here he referred philosophers like Bishop Berkeley is mentioned for a very good reason, regardless of what purpose Voltaire may have served in the same position in the original French version. The point of part 2, in accord with the broad outlines of the play, is that man faded away. He gets smaller and smaller, short, brief, naked. This is man cut to size by Beckett autopometry, in pitiful contrast to the universe measuring man of the Renaissance. Berkeley, it so happened, devised a primitive theory of relativity, basing it on his new theory of vision. Small things look larger under a microscope, and large things look small at a distance. Nothing, therefore, has a absolute size. The phrases enclosed in parentheses in part 2C, like the doubt, addendums in part 2A, introduce contradiction, approximation, and exactness, inches and ounces, and nakedness and stalking the feet are all impossible juxtapositions. Connemara is a country in Ireland where long fishermen stalking are knit. It is called to be standing around naked. Connemara may also be a pun. Beckett, who knows Italian, greets you with ironic jest, love, and devotion. Then part 3.
And considering what is more, much more grave, that in the light of the labours lost of Steinweg and Peterman, it appears what is more, much more grave, that in the light of the labours lost of Steinweg and Peterman, that in the plains, in the mountains, by the seas, by the rivers running water, running fire, the air is the same, and then the earth, namely the air, and then the earth, and the great cold, the great dark, the air and the earth, abode of stones, and the great cold, alas, alas, in the year of the Lord 600 and something, the air, the earth, the sea, the earth, abode of stones, and the great cold, the great deeps, on sea, on land, and in the air. I resume, for reasons unknown, in spite of the tennis, the facts are there, but time will tell. I resume, alas, alas, on, in short and fine, on, the boat of stones who come down it. I resume, but not so fast. I resume, the skull to shake and waste. I can currently simultaneously what is more for reasons unknown, in spite of the tennis, on, the beard, the flames, the tears, the stones, so blue, so calm, alas, alas, on, the skull, the skull, the skull, the skull in Connemara, in spite of the tennis, the labours abandoned, left unfinished, graver still, a boat of stones. In a word, I resume, alas, alas, abandoned, unfinished, the skull in Connemara, in spite of the tennis, the skull, alas, the stones, Cunard, tennis, the stones, Cunard, unfinished. And considering what is more, much more grave.
Here, the objection which part begins to unfold is much more grave than the one in part 2. Grave sets the poetic tone for this part, recalling the pun on appelled earlier in the play and foreshadowing Poggio's swan song. The struggle to get through a series of that's begins again, but quickly breaks down. It gives way to a similar type of aphasia structure in which the normal progress from one thought to another is derailed by the double meaning of certain words: more, in, on. Steinweg and Peterman reinforces the new theme of stone. fire the air. Repeats fire the firmament from part 1 and is the same, refers to the divine apathy and the celestial calm. Toward the end of part 3, the phrases common to earlier part begin to be sucked into the poetic vortex of phrases proper to part 3 and acquire new contextual meaning. And in the year of the Lord 600 and something means something quite definite to Beckett, for it recurs altered in melon dice in a place impermeable as far as possible to wind, rain, sound, cold, great heat, and daylight. Beckett seems to have in mind some notable occurrence in the 7th century, presumably conflagration. Then overview of lucky speech, we could find the materialistic things in lucky speech, and lucky speech is not merely anti-intellectual. However much it may suited the intellectual as the domain responsible for the mind appropriation of feeling and sensation. The speech start with a hypothetical statement about the existence of a personal god outside time, living in divine aphasia, and divine athambia. This personal God loves us dearly with some exceptions, but he does not communicate with us, cannot feel anything for us, and finally condemn us for reasons unknown. The particular phrase "for reasons unknown" recurs more often than any other. It functions as an effective condensation of Lucky's message to the audience, the impossibility of reasoning when causes are unintelligible. Beckett once said that there is an endless verbal germination, maturation, putrefaction, the cyclical dynamize of the intermediate, and lucky speech is based precisely upon such a circular movement of language from its initial stage of exemplary articulation to its final decay. Human logos might infer progress toward its perfection insofar as it were able to reflect the internal unity of a word inspired by the absolute, but the personal God is neither charitable, intelligent, nor in the least bit interested in humanity. Logos as progress is subvert by logos as regress. So, in conclude, it brings about a sense that words have been put together haphazardly to produce a particular structure and in turn meaning. In this way, lucky speech is a reflection of the play itself in concise form, as it produces meaning from its formlessness and lack of content. Lucky conclude his speech with the word unfinished. It discusses the unfinished speech as well as the incomplete dwindling process of humans. These are word citations. Now you can ask me question.
Gayatri, my question is that how does the language and style of Loki's speech reflect the theme of the play?
Okay. The language and styles of lucky speech is reflect some themes of the play. In the lucky speech, we could find little bit absurdity and silence and pauses. This shows the theme of absurdity of the play, and lucky speech is a little bit talking about the existence and about the god, that god is not we can't say that god is really in our world or not. In as in the play, we could also find we have also doubt of the existence of god. Through that, the language and style of lucky speech reflect the various theme of the play.
Gayatri, my question is how the lucky speech adds up to the meaninglessness in the play.
In lucky speech, we seen so many meaninglessness. He used various words that repeated again and again. This shows the meaninglessness, and if we observe the speech we just observe the speech, that we can't understand anything about speech. We have to get more references to understand the speech, and the word that he referred in his speech. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So today is the second day of season 2 presentation. So on occasion of this day, I'm going to present my presentation on the dangers of surveillance in the context of novel 1994. So let's start with the presentation. Here is my personal information. Points to ponder: introduction of author, introduction of novel, the danger of surveillance, after that Big Brother is watching, scandal of Pegasus, and technologies in 1984. Introduction of author: as we all know that the famous author George Orwell, pseudonym of Eric Arthur Blair, he was very famous author and novelist. His last book, 1984, a novel he wrote as a warning after years of brooding on the twine menace of Nazism and the Stalinism. The novel is set in an imaginary future in which the world is dominated by the three perpetually warring totalitarian police state. So here in the slide you can see the information about the author. After that introduction of the novel, Orwell wrote 1984 as a warning after years of, as I also mentioned earlier, it was published on 8 June 1949 by Saker and Warburg as Orwell's ninth and final book, completed in his lifetime. So this book is a last book of George Orwell. Uh, Orwell, a democratic socialist, modeled and the authoritarian state in the novel on a Stalinist Russian and Nazi Germany. So this is information about the novel. Now let's start with the point, the dangers of surveillance. According to Michael Yu, surveillance is pervasive in the novel. Instances of surveillance is divided into two main kinds: panoptical and the substitutional. So panoptical surveillance is the interest self-surveillance. So this term is used as the self-surveillance, and another term, surreptitious surveillance, work on the opposite belief, like believing that one is in a private space. So this both are, one is used for self surveillance and another is used for private space. According to Michael, the same critic, surveillance in 1984 is expressed in the following passage. So this passage is from the original text. There was, of course, no way of knowing whether you were being watched at any given moment. You had to live from habit that become instinct, in the assumption that every sound you made was overheard, and except in darkness every movement scrutinized. So this is also a passage from the George Orwell's novel 1984. In this assumption, Winston, self-censored and plays for the camera, pretending to believe that
think what he is supposed to, and hiding his truth, thoughts, and beliefs. So this passages came when this Winston, our protagonist, he wrote his diary when he pretending to not coming into the cameras and television. This continues like according to Neil M. Richards, we know that government have been buying and borrowing private sector databases. As we all know that now governments are linked the Aadhaar card with every single things, like you have to link your Aadhaar card with your account number and etc. We know that. As he said that governments have been buying and borrowing private sector's database, and we recently learned that the National Security Agency (NSA) has been building a massive data and supercomputing central in Utah. So apparently, with the goal of intercepting and storing much of the world's internet communications for decrypting and analysis. So this is like government is analysis the government buying the database from the private sectors, as the NSA saying, communication and bank records sought under the ECPA and the RFPA are protected by the additional requirement that the FBI certainly that such as a investigation of a US person is not conducted solely. So as we know that government has this like privacy of the person, like they have this database and they says that we have the privacy and we will not declare your private information to others. So this is the things like here in picture you also can see that from everywhere you are watching, like Big Brother is watching in 1984, like from TV, from mobile, from laptop, everything are watching you. So this is the surveillance, as also this Neil M. Richards say. Big Brother is watching. So now I want to compare this Big Brother with the Big Boss, like one reality show which is based on this camera and reality. So in that Big Boss also the cameras were there, and some one person who is watching from a hidden place. We don't know whether he was there or he was exist also. So there is only voice command was there. So I want to say that Big Brother is also the same things, like a Big Brother is one image who is surveillance or who is watching everyone. The phrase Big Brother is watching you tends to be associated with surveillance. So this Big Brother is watching you is a very critical thing, like it is also associated with the surveillance. Surveillance, propagandic, and the belief necessary for proper panoptic surveillance. As he entered the hallway of his apartment, Winston is confronted by a large colored poster feature the ruggedly handsome face of a man of about 45. So we know that how the Brother's face is looking like. He was ugly, or we can say that ugly handsome face, and a man of 45. So here is saying that Big Brother is watching is very connected with the surveillance. So this is a contemporary example of surveillance, like scandal of Pegasus, which is happened in 2021. So Pegasus is a type of spyware created by the Israel Cyber Intelligence Company (NSO) group. It is designed to infiltrate mobile phones and collect data, including messages, emails, photos, and also, as well as an activity, the microphones and camera to record conversational and conversations and take pictures without the user's knowledge. So in this Pegasus, what happened is the Israel government NSO, this group of people who are the intelligence company, and they create one spyware which is going in the phones or every electric gadgets which are there, and in that they are collecting the photos, mobile photos, and these messages and emails, and so data of the person, like if he was a government person or anyone who is there. So scandal of Pegasus is very important to not hear, like he this scandal is also very important for the surveillance. Like Pegasus spyware scandal has a freshened memory of the scary revolution made by Edward Snowden surrounding mass surveillance of US citizen. So this is made by Israel, and for the US citizen. So here this article 19 and 21, in this article also says that the fundamental right. So this is the Indian constitute, like articles is based on Indian constitute. So in this article, fundamental rights or to privacy and lawful, in this article also mentioned that you cannot go or you cannot access something private for others, like you cannot access from without his or her permission. So in this Pegasus, it was doing the same thing, like they are not even having the permission to access the things. So here is one small video which is NDTV's interview. So let's see. It is not coming. Okay. Yes, but let me just do it again. So I think there are some issues. So let's watch it. This video again.
Supreme Court has said that it will order a probe panel into allegations of Pegasus hacking. The Chief Justice said a final order will be given next week. When the Supreme Court actually puts together that panel, he said some people had declined for personal reasons.
10 days ago, in its hearing on the Pegasus spyware scandal, the Supreme Court had repeatedly pressed the government to file an affidavit explaining whether a government agency had authorized the use of Pegasus for interception. The government had refused, citing security reasons, and had said it is offering to set up a committee to probe the issue.
Now there will be a committee, but set up by the court, not the government. The Chief Justice of India has said, we wanted to pass an order before this week. Some members we considered declined to be part of the panel. There is a delay in orders as some members declined for personal reasons. We will try to pass an order next week. The court's decision comes on the basis of a petition filed by senior editors and public figures. One of them, former Finance Minister and Trinamool leader Yashwant Sinha, told NDTV, I am very happy with the decision of the Supreme Court. I hope that they will fulfill their duties and come to the right conclusion based on facts. Some say this is a setback to the centre, which will have no say in the appointments of the members of this committee, but that the government will not have to file an affidavit.
The centre, which avoided a debate in Parliament on the Pegasus controversy by calling it a non-serious issue and also refused to file an affidavit in the Supreme Court, will now finally have to give answers to a committee appointed by the top court. In New Delhi with camera person Sushil Rathi, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
So in this video also it is mentioned that the government will not pass the affidavit, or government will not uh, do that affidavit into court. So court themselves were allowing to people that it is not a serious problem. So we can see that in 1984 as well as in this today's time, like government is not caring about the people and their privacy. Here is the another link which I give in the presentation is based on this topic ndtv.com, and in that you can see the some articles which is based on this scandal. The argument of I have nothing to hide is also problematic and hollows, given the fact that a large number of people choose to self-censored in the face of increasing clampdown on dissenting citizens. So surveillance leads to identification of dissenters, which prompts measures such as banning of the social account, slapping of security legislation such as the UAPA and the NSA without any legal basis. So this is also saying that I have nothing to hide is also very problematic. You are saying to people who is spying over you, like you have nothing to hide, but they have much information about you, then you have your information. So it is very problematic thing. The use of facial recognition technology to capture seditional charge against the anti-CAA protester. So this is the article by Shyam Sharma. In the Times news. So this is also his assumption, like the new information technology rule 2021 have also been flagged by the UN special rapporteurs for having serious implication on the right to freedom of expression and privacy by virtues of it. So by surveillance we don't have the freedom, or we don't have this the restriction of individual freedom is also there in surveillance. You are constantly being watched by one who is you don't know about them, like they are watching you, they are doing with your personal detail, they are doing whatever they want to do. So this is very problematic thing, or this is a very dangerous thing about your personal information. And this is a spyware which is also banned by now government. So next slide is technology in 1984. As we know that 1984 uses the big telescreens and CCTVs and little microphones, and all things are there in 1984. While the theoretical discussion of technology has an important role in the novel, the mention of actual technologies is cursory at best, usually being limited to one or two sentences. The major technologies dealt with are the telescreens, helicopters, the floating fortress, and construction of the ministry building. As we know that there are four ministries, like their buildings, the rocket bomb, atomic weapons, instruments of interrogation, rights and novel writing machines, verificational pneumatic tubes. Like also we know that there are so many machines in the room 101, and another machines are also there. So these all are technologies which George Orwell imagined in his time. Each of these developments contributes to the basic picture which is drawn in the book. Like this is the picture, like George Orwell also mentioned in his novel. All his these technologies are used in this novel. One could raise this and other questions about Orwell's vision. This would, however, only reformed the popularized misinterpretation of his work. Like if he used this popularized technology and all these things, one can misinterpret this work also. Now we do have computers, we do have better instruments for mind control also. We do have improved version of his weaponry. We do have artificial
So all this, now we also have this AI chat GPT. Because of this ChatGPT, there are so many dangerous things also happened in today's time, but we are not going there. But okay, so let's move to another side, which is based on 1984 and the present. However, this is also by this man, Yugan Behel. However, independence of Orwell's claim, it must at least briefly be asked whether or not his vision of society might yet be compilated with the technology. Ultimately, unrest among those excluded from the position of power will result in the overthrow of the existing social structure. So now we have social media and all other artificial technology and more improvised technology. So the danger will be increase in the comparison of that time. So we are screening this documentary, which is the social dilemma, which is also talking about this the same thing, like social media and all these things. So the social dilemma is a 2020 American docudrama film directed by Jeff Orowski and written by Orowski, David Combe, and Vicky Curtins. The documentary examines how social media's design nurtures addiction to maximize profit and its ability to manipulate people's views, emotions, and behavior, and spread conspiracy theories and disinformation. The film also examines social media's effect on mental health, in particularly the mental health of adolescents and rising teen suicide rates. Also, this social media is doing some things like teenagers' suicide might be raised according to this social media and social dilemmas. The film features interviews with many former employees of social media companies along with academic researchers. So if you are interested, then you can go to Netflix and you can watch this documentary, which is very good in quality, and you can understand how social media is manipulate the people or teenager who is also innocent and they don't know about this all things. So the film also examines how social media platforms have impacted the spread of fake news and how governments have used social media as a tool of propaganda. We all know that now this social media is a tool of propaganda for governments also. These interviews are presented alongside scripted dramatized of a teenager's social media addiction. This draws attention to the rising concerns of the ridiculized of youth on the interviews. So this is a very problematic thing, like teenagers are not aware about these things, and social media social media is manipulating them. So it is very problematic thing. These are work cited. Thank you. Now you have any question, then you can ask me.
Drashti, in what ways the government in 1984 used surveillance to maintain control over citizens?
Yes. In 1984, government like Big Brother is watching you. They use this telescreen, and as I also mentioned earlier in my presentation, that this telescreens, helicopters, and all these technologies were used in the novel to surveillance the people and the normal people who are living there, and they all are controlled by the government, like how they get up earlier and what they do, what they eat, what they like all whole his day are mentioned in the novel, like time to bed and time to go to bed, and like from earlier waking up to the go to bed sleep, like this is the all things are there, like you have to wake up, you have to do exercise, you have to do eat, you have to eat, like these all things are mentioned in the novel. So this is the surveillance and mentioned in the novel also, and mental mind control were also there in this novel. So this is my answer.
Drashti, my question is, how do you see the dangers of surveillance in the present time?
Yes, like I talk about this documentary which is based on social media and the social dilemma. In this documentary, also they mentioned that in present time the people were not aware about the technology and danger of technology. They are putting their private things on the social media, like they are not even caring about their own personal things. So this is very dangerous thing in a present time. So I want to say, if you are using social media, you have to use in that mindset, like this is very dangerous thing, and if you are not controlled over your social media things, you have to be pay for these things. So I want to say this only. Thank you.
Very good afternoon to everyone. Today is the second day of our presentation, and my name is Bhavyata Kukadiya, and my topic name is Waiting for Government Exam like Waiting for Godot. Here is my personal information. Points to ponder upon. Author introduction. Introduction to Waiting for Godot. Concept of waiting in the play Waiting for Godot and its significance. Main characters. The absurdity of existence. Similarity and differences of Waiting for Godot and Waiting for Government Exams, and conclusion. And then citation. Here is a first slide about author introduction. The Waiting for Godot play is written by a famous writer, Samuel Beckett. He was an Irish playwright, novelist, and poet. Born in April 13, 1906, in Dublin, Ireland, he studied French, Italian, and English literature at Trinity College, Dublin. Bucket, Beckett taught at a school in Belfast and later in Paris, where he befriended James Joyce and other writers. During World War II, Beckett joined the French resistance, but he was later arrested and imprisoned by the Gestapo. He escaped and went into hiding until the end of the war. Bucket's first major works was the novel Murphy. Uh, he is most famous for his plays, uh, including Waiting for Godot and many others. Beckett's plays were notable for their minimalist style, dark humor, and existential theme. He was awarded he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1969. Beckett's work has been widely studied and performed around the world. Introduction to Waiting for Godot. Waiting for Godot is a play by Samuel Beckett, as I mentioned earlier. The first published in 1952. It is a tragic comedy that follows the lives of two characters, Vladimir and Estragon. Vladimir and Estragon is the major character of this play, who are waiting for the arrival of someone named Godot. The play is set in the barren landscape, and the characters engage in a series of absurd conversation and action while waiting for Godot to arrive. Uh, Despite their waiting, Godot never appears, leaving Vladimir and Estragon to ponder the meaning of their existence and the futility of their actions. The play is often interpreted as an exploration of the human condition and has been praised for its existential themes, its exploration of the nature of time, and its innovative use of language and structure. Concept of waiting in the play, waiting for Godot and its significance. This concept of waiting is central to Waiting for Godot, representing the human experience of waiting for something in our lives. Through the characters Waiting for Godot, Beckett explores theme of futility, meaninglessness, and existentialism. Waiting becomes a metaphor for life itself, suggesting that we must find ways to make meaning out of our experience while we wait. I compare this Waiting for Godot to the current situation of waiting for government exam. The main character of this is Vladimir, Estragon, Pozzo, and Lucky. I compare this Vladimir and Estragon to students who are eagerly waiting for government exam, and Pozzo is a. I compare this Pozzo as a leader, and Lucky is a. I compare this character of Lucky with a blind followers of the leaders. Uh, Here is the some dialogues of this Waiting for Godot, which is many times repeated in the whole play, and I connect with his contemporary situation of a paper leak, and when Vladimir merely smiles and say it's not the same thing, nothing to be done. And as we can compare this dialogue with the students, and they are waiting for a government exam, but times and again, many times, many papers of governments are leaked, so students are waiting and say nothing to be done. The second dialogue is Estragon. Nothing happens, nobody comes, nobody goes. It's awful. These dialogues I also compare with students' situation, and they can ask in many videos which viral in social media, that many students tell that government exam will never come. A character of this waiting for Godot boy, Mr. Godot told me to tell you he won't come this evening, but surely tomorrow. This dialogue I compare with political leaders who are give students explanation that government exam will come, you should wait, and every time students wait, many since 3 to 4 years some students are waiting for paper, and they eagerly waiting, and but the result is government exam never come. The next dialogue is said by Estragon. Then all we have to do is to wait on here. The only situation, and students have to wait for government exam because they don't have any other option other of waiting. Here is the I found a picture of a paper leak, and the paper leak and this which paper leak, and during this some statements of government. Here is a video.
નમસ્કાર, આપ જોઈ રહ્યા છો TV9. હું છું જગદીશ. સમાચારની શરૂઆત આજના મહત્વપૂર્ણ અને મોટા સમાચાર. જુનિયર ક્લાર્ક પરીક્ષાનું પેપર લીક થયું અને આ લીક કેસ બાબતે અપડેટ મળી રહ્યા છે. પેપર બજારમાં પૈસાથી વેચાઈ રહ્યું હોવાનો પણ દાવો કરવામાં આવ્યો છે. ગુજરાત ATSને 15 દિવસ પહેલા જાણ કરાઈ હોવાનો દાવો થયો છે. ગુજરાત ATSની ટીમ શંકાસ્પદ લોકોને ઇન્ટરસેપ્ટ કરી રહી હતી. ગત મોડી રાત્રે ગુજરાત ATSએ આરોપીઓને ઝડપ્યા છે. ગુજરાતના 4 અને અન્ય રાજ્યના 11 શખ્સોની ધરપકડ કરવામાં આવી. હૈદરાબાદના પ્રિન્ટિંગ પ્રેસથી પેપર ફૂટ્યું. ગુજરાત ATS હૈદરાબાદ જવા માટે રવાના થયા છે. પેપરની નકલ વડોદરાથી વાયરલ કરાઈ. ગુજરાત ATSએ આરોપીઓની પૂછપરછ શરૂ કરી છે. જુનિયર ક્લાર્કનું પેપર લીક થતા સમગ્ર રાજ્યમાં હડકંપ મચી ગયો છે. સ્પર્ધાત્મક પરીક્ષા મોકૂફ રાખવામાં આવતા પરીક્ષાર્થીઓમાં ભારે રોષ જોવા મળી રહ્યો છે. ત્યારે વધુ માહિતી સાથે જોડાઈ ચૂક્યા છે સંવાદદાતા મિહિર સોની. મિહિર, પેપર લીક કેસ મામલે એક મોટા સમાચાર આવી રહ્યા છે અને ATSને 15 દિવસ પહેલા જાણ હતી તે બાબતને લઈને પણ ત્યારબાદની કાર્યવાહી ATS દ્વારા કઈ રીતે કરવામાં આવી છે, પૂરી પરિસ્થિતિનો ચિતાર.
જગદીશ, ફરી એક વખત પેપર ફૂટ્યું છે. જુનિયર ક્લાર્કનું આ ફરી પેપર ફૂટ્યું છે. ગુજરાત ATSએ અત્યાર સુધી અલગ અલગ રાજ્યોમાંથી 15 જેટલા જે શખ્સો છે તેની અટકાયત છે તે કરી દેવામાં આવી છે. આ 15 લોકોની શું ભૂમિકા છે તેને લઈને અત્યારે હાલ તપાસ જે છે તે કરવામાં આવી રહી છે. ગુજરાત ATSના અધિકારીઓ સાથે જે ચર્ચા થઈ તે લોકો આ પેપરને જે બહાર બજારમાં વેચાઈ રહ્યું હોવાનું સર્વેલન્સ છે છેલ્લા 15 દિવસથી કરતા હતા અને ગત મોડી રાત્રે તેમને બરોડાથી એક વ્યક્તિ પેપર વેચી રહ્યો હોવાની માહિતી છે તે માહિતી મળી અને જેના આધારે તેમને ત્યાં આગળ રેડ કરી અને જે ટ્યુશન સંચાલક છે કે જ્યાં વડોદરાનું આવેલું સ્ટેક નામનું સ્ટેક વાઇઝ ટેકનોલોજી નામની જે ક્લાસીસ છે તેના સંચાલક સહિત 4 લોકોની છે તે અટકાયત કરી અને ત્યારબાદ તપાસ કરતા એક બાદ એક આ પેપર જે બજારમાં વેચાઈ રહ્યું હોવાનું અને જે વાયરલ થયું તે તમામ લોકોની અટકાયત છે તે કરવામાં આવી. અત્યાર સુધીમાં જો ગુજરાતમાંથી 4 શખ્સ અને 11 શખ્સ જે અન્ય રાજ્યોમાંથી છે તેમને પકડી લેવામાં આવ્યા છે. ગુજરાત ATS તો દાવો છે કે જે શંકાસ્પદ લોકોનું ઇન્ટરસેપ્ટ છે જે 15 દિવસથી કરતા હતા અને ત્યારબાદ ગત મોડી રાત્રે તેમને આખું ઓપરેશન પાર પાડ્યું અને ત્યારબાદ લોકોની અટકાયત છે તે કરવામાં આવી છે. જો કે આ પેપર ફૂટ્યું હોવાનું જે એપી સેન્ટર છે તે ગુજરાત બહાર હોવાનું સામે આવ્યું છે. ગુજરાત ATSની અત્યારે હાલ 5 રાજ્યોમાં અલગ અલગ ટીમ છે તે તપાસ અર્થે પહોંચી છે. જે તેલંગાણા છે યુપી, દિલ્હી, ઓડિશા અને બિહાર ના રાજ્યોમાં ગુજરાત એટીએસ ની ટીમ છે તે અત્યારે હાલ રવાના છે, તે થઈ ગઈ છે. હાલ આ પેપર ડુપ્લિકેટ પહેલા વડોદરાથી મળ્યું અને ત્યારબાદ અલગ અલગ જગ્યાએથી મળ્યું હોવાનું પ્રાથમિક તપાસ છે તે સામે આવ્યું છે. આ ગુજરાત એટીએસ ના દ્રશ્યો છે કે જ્યાં આગળ સુરક્ષાકર્મી છે કે તે અત્યારે હાલ તૈનાત છે અને એક બાદ એક જે ટીમ દ્વારા લિંક મળી રહી છે તે લિંકના આધારે જ આરોપીઓ છે કે જે તે લોકોની જે સંડોવણી છે તે લોકોની અટકાયત છે તે કરવામાં આવી રહી છે. હાલ જગદીશ 1 કલાકની અંદર જ ગુજરાત એટીએસ દ્વારા સત્તાવાર તમામ માહિતીઓ છે તે આપવામાં આવશે. ત્યારે બીજી બાજુ 9 લાખથી વધુ ઉમેદવારો હતા કે જે આ જુનિયર ક્લાર્કની પરીક્ષા છે તે આપવા આવવાના હતા, પરંતુ મોટા ભાગના લોકો છે તમામ આવી ગયા હતા કેન્દ્ર ઉપર ને વહેલી સવારે જ આ ખ્યાલ પડ્યો કે આખું આ પેપર ફૂટ્યું અને ત્યારબાદ તંત્ર દ્વારા આરોપીઓની છે તે અટકાયત કરી છે. એટલે હાલ તો ગુજરાત એટીએસ દ્વારા આ તમામ લોકોને પકડવા માટેની જે ટીમો છે તે રવાના થઈ ગઈ છે, પરંતુ જે એપી સેન્ટર છે ગુજરાત બહારનું સામે આવ્યું છે. એટલે જે જ્યાં આગળથી પેપર પ્રિન્ટિંગ થવાના હતા ત્યાં તેલંગાણાથી એટલે કે ત્યાંથી ફૂટ્યું હોવાની અત્યારે હાલ આશંકા છે તે જોવા મળી રહી છે. પરંતુ હાલ તો ગુજરાત એટીએસની ટીમ દ્વારા અત્યારે એ પણ શોધખોળ શરૂ કરી દીધી છે કે સૌથી પહેલા આ પેપર લીક છે તે ક્યાંથી થયું.
નમસ્કાર, આપ જોઈ રહ્યા છો TV9. હું છું જગદીશ. સમાચારની શરૂઆત આજના મહત્વપૂર્ણ અને મોટા સમાચાર. જુનિયર ક્લાર્ક પરીક્ષાનું પેપર લીક થયું અને આ લીક કેસ બાબતે અપડેટ મળી રહ્યા છે. પેપર બજારમાં પૈસા
with this, I can say that some students attempt suicide because they are prepare for this government exam many years, like 4 years, 5 years, but they didn't want chance to give this government exam. The now continue the play. The absurdity of existence. Here in this play, many dialogues are absurd, but here is the I take some dialogues. This dialogue reflects the sense of absurdity and meaninglessness that permeates the play. As the characters wait endlessly for God, who never arrives, the repetition of the waiting and the futility of their efforts underscore the existentialist themes of the play, highlighting the way in which the characters struggle to find purpose or meaning of their lives. The comparison to waiting for an exam underscores the way in which waiting can feel pointless and futile, and highlights the challenges and anxieties that can accompany this experience. There's a similarity of waiting for government like waiting for exam, and the differences of the similarity is both waiting in the play and waiting for an exam can be stressful and anxiety inductive experience. In both situations, the wait can feel endless and uncertain with no clear end in sight. Both waiting in the play and waiting for an exam can lead to feelings of a frustration and a sense of being stuck in the cycle. Waiting in both situations can bring up existential questions about the purpose and meaning of life. Some differences of these two cases. In the play, the character are waiting for something that may or may not come, while waiting for an exam is a more concrete and certain event. Waiting for an exam usually has a specific time frame, while the characters in the play are unsure to when or if Godot will arrive. Waiting for an exam is usually a planned and expected event, while the characters in the play are waiting without a clear understanding of why or for what purpose. Waiting for an exam may involve preparation and study, while the characters in the play have nothing to do but wait. Waiting for an exam has a clear goal or outcome, while the waiting in the play is more open ended and ambiguous. To be conclude, Waiting for Godot explore the themes of waiting and existentialism and provides insight to the experience of waiting for an exam. Through the absurdity of waiting, we can understand the situation. In Waiting for Godot, Vladimir and Estragon both are waiting in the waiting for government exam. The students for waiting for their government exam, there is a similarity in the both the cases, but the situation is differentiated. In both the cases, the exams are surely there to come, but in the play God never comes, which we can also seen in the play. They are waiting for many times, but God never come. But we can have some expectation that today but not tomorrow exam will come. Work citation. If you have any query, then you can ask.
Bhavyata, how does the waiting experience of students before an exam compare to the waiting experience of the characters in Waiting for Godot?
Waiting for Godot and waiting for exam, they both have a similar situation. Similar situation involve waiting for something important and uncertain. Both situation can be stressful and boring. Both situation may involve repetition and routine, and although there are differences, there are also similarities in the feeling and experience of waiting. Anything?
Bhavata, my question is that how does the ending of Waiting for Godot relate to the outcome of taking an exam, and what lessons can be drawn from this comparison?
The ending of Waiting for Godot, where the characters Vladimir and Estragon continues to waiting without any answer, can be compared we can compare to the feelings of waiting for exam result. Just like the characters in the play, students would take an exam often don't know the outcomes until they receive the result, which can create uncertainty and anxiety. However, students can learn from this character that they don't wait for exam, and they uh, keep going from other activity. And in this play, we can see the Vladimir and Stragon both are only waiting, but I want to say the students that don't wait for a government exam. They can do another activity also.
Very good noon to you all. I'm Avani Jani, and today I'm going to discuss about the topic God is dead. Here is the roadmap existentialism, major existentialist, Friedrich Nietzsche, the gay science, God is dead. God is dead in context of waiting for Godot and citations. Existentialism. Before moving to the subject of the God is dead, first it is important to know about existentialism. So here are some very simple and easy definitions of existentialism. Existentialism is a form of philosophical inquiry that explores the issue of human existence. Existentialist philosophers explore questions related to the meaning, purpose, and value of human existence. Common concepts in existentialist thought include existential crisis, dread, and anxiety in the face of an absurd world, as well as authenticity, courage, and virtue. Here are some major existentialists. First one is Soren Kierkegaard. He is a Danish philosopher and considered as a first existentialist. Man is spirit. But what is spirit? Spirit is the self. But what is self? The self is relation which relates itself to its own self, or it is that in the relation which accounts for it, that the relation relates itself to its own self. The self is not relation but consists in the fact that the relation relates itself to its own self. Man is a synthesis of infinite and finite, of the temporal and the eternal, of freedom and necessity. In short, it is synthesis. A synthesis is a relation between two factors. So regarded, man is not yet a self. According to Kierkegaard, we become our true, authentic slaves only by acknowledging and accepting a relation to God. Failing to do so, our existence enters the realm of despair and anxiety in their multiple forms according to our level of self consciousness. Dostoevsky is not particularly existentialist, but he has given many existentialist philosophies, and these two are one of them. Human freedom is intimately and personally involved in the concrete individual's life in a dynamic process of reaching and maintaining a meaningful and fully unified existence. The purpose of life is to act properly by being authentic to yourself. Jean Paul Sartre. He is a very famous for existentialism philosophy, and he is a leading character of a 20th century in philosophy and Marxism. He discovers forthwith that he is without excuse, for if needed, existence precedes essence. One will never be able to explain one's action by reference to a given specific human nature. In other words, there is no determinism. Man is free. Man is freedom. Nor, on the other hand, if God does not exist, are we provided with any values or commands that could legitimate our behavior? Thus, we have neither behind us nor before us, in luminous realm of values, any means of justification or excuse. We are left alone, without excuses. That is what I mean when I say that man is condemned to be free. Temporality is obviously an organized structure, and these three so called elements of time, past, present, and future, must not be envisaged as collection of data to be added together, but as the structured moment of an original synthesis. Otherwise, we shall immediately meet with this paradox: the past is no longer, the future is not yet. As for the intentionous present, Everyone knows that it is not at all. It is the limit of infinite division, like the dimensionless point. So here, Jean-Paul Sartre's philosophy is very much similar to the concept of God is dead. Uh, this is a very like he. These lines defines God is dead very very clearly. Friedrich Nietzsche Friedrich Nietzsche was a German philosopher and cultural critic who published intensively in the 1870s and 1880s. He is famous for uncomparison criticisms of traditional European morality and religion, as well as conventional philosophical ideas and social and political biases associated with modernity. Many of these criticisms rely on a psychological diagnosis that exposes full consciousness infecting people's received ideas. For that reason, he is often associated with a group of late modern thinkers. So he is a very interested in the psychological diagnosis that expose false consciousness infecting people's received ideas. So indirectly, in this point, he in this his mentality, he is thinking about the God is dead theory. Then he is saying that the thing that is not existing, we humans are so happy to believe in it that it is not even existing. So still we are worshipping it. The gay signs. The gay signs, La Gia Senza. The tide is a translation into German and a provisional subtitle. Gaya signs are joyful, cheerful, or gay signs. Was a term used by troubadours in the 12th 14th centuries to refer the art of poetry. In Ek Homo, Nisha writes that he has used the term Gaya signs here to designate the specific unity of singer, knight, and free spirit, which was characterized by provincial culture. The Gay Science is a remarkable book, both in itself and offering a way into the same Nasha's most important ideas. This entire book is really nothing but an amusement after a long privation and powerlessness. The jubilation of a returning strength of a reawakened faith in a tomorrow and a day after tomorrow, of a sudden sense and anticipation of a future impending adventures, of repented seas, of goals that are permitted and believed in again. The book contains a collection of aphorisms and essays on various topics, including the death of God, the nature of truth and knowledge, the meaning of existence, and the role of art in society. It also includes Naji's famous proclamation, eternal recurrence, which suggests that every moment of our lives repeated infinitely. The gay science is considered as one of the Naji's most accessible and engaging works, and it continues to be widely studied today. So here is the topic: the God is dead. Have you not heard of that madam who lit a lantern in the bright morning hours, ran to the marketplace, and cried incessantly, I see God, I see God. Where is God? He cried, I shall tell you, we have killed him, you and I. All of us are his murderers. God is dead. God remains dead, and we have killed him. This dialogue from Gay Signs of Friedrich Nietzsche is a very famous and is a very problematic that create a very controversy in that day till today. It is very controversial statement that he has ever given. In saying the nauseous meaning meant that society no longer had use of God. The absence or presence of faith make no difference to humanity, thus belief in God is redundant. Nations recognized the stark implication of a position. Without God, we are literally on our own. The death of the death of the Christian God includes the death of Christian ethics that have underpinned the Western culture since constant converted Christianity through centuries. So here he is putting the point that God is even if God exists or not, it never make difference. If he is alive or dead, there is no any difference. One can see that there are so much cruelty in God's day and in ours day also. Even God's son also being killed, and God even couldn't save him. So how he is supposed to save us? So this is how this is how Nashik claims that God is dead. He said that society was decayed and falling into decay. He thought that at best people were unaware of this fact. The worst they were aware but refused to face up the reality of the situation and instead took refuge in the self-deception. He recognized that the people were not ready to face either the finitude of their own existence or the reality and implication of a godless existence. He calls this the will to truth sets us free, has actually set humanity free from need of Christianity itself. Proving this point, I would like to give one example. When you sleep and awake one morning and someone tells you that your mom dad is dead, so what will we do? We will cry for an hour, for days, for months, for years. But what next? We will move on. So same thing. The Najee tells us, tries to convey us that we have to keep move on. If God is dead, then we have to keep moving. So if he is, then if he is or he is not, it is never make difference anywhere. So we have to keep moving in our own way. He believed that Jesus' mission that been misunderstood and his teaching used to end other than those intended by Jesus. It is not a faith that distinguish the Christian. The Christian acts. He is distinguished by acting differently. The life of the Redeemer was nothing less than this practice, nor was his death anything else. He knows that it is only in the practice of the life that one feels divine. Only the evangelical practice leads to God. Indeed, it is God, the bringer of glad tidings, died as had given he had a thought, not to redeem man, but to show how one must live. This is his legacy to mankind. I shall now relate that the real history of Christianity. The word Christianity is already misunderstanding. In reality, there has only been one Christian, and he died on the cross. The evangel died on the cross from the moment all is lies. The Son of God, Jesus was can be considered as the last generation of God, and he was also hung on a cross, and he is dead. So now the generation of God, the whole generation of God is dead, and we have to accept it. Unlike those around him who had failed to recognize that God is dead, or those who knew but choose to pretend otherwise, Naje embraced the challenge of a godless world. He believed that the truth had set humanity free, but freedom was terrifying, since the buck now stopped with humanity and not God. At the same time, he thought that this new freedom was humanity's greatest opportunity to seize power and control its destiny. we many times say that do good things, otherwise you will be sent in hell. So I want to say something that God has written our faith. Then how can we go to the hell? So if God has written our faith, then how are we then why everyone is blaming us? It is we have to blame him or her, sorry, God. At the same time, he thought that this new freedom was humanity's greatest opportunity to seize power and control its destiny. We philosophers and free spirits, in fact, feel that the news that the old God is dead as illuminated by a new dawn, our heart overflows with gratitude, astonishment, presentiment, expectation. At last, the horizon seems to us again free, even if it should not bright at last. Our ships can put out again, no matter the danger. Every daring venture of knowledge is again permitted. The sea, our sea, again lies there upon before us. Perhaps there has never yet been such an open sea. God is dead in context of waiting for Godot. In the context of Waiting for Godot, the play can be read as a commentary on the idea of God's absence or non existence. The characters waiting for Godot can be seen as a metaphor for the human search for meaning and purpose in the world, where traditional religious beliefs are no longer sufficient. In the play Waiting for Godot, Valdemir and Estrogen are waiting for Godot, and they keep on waiting, but God never came. So one can well observe the theory of God is dead. Can applying here very perfectly that God is dead. Then how are we? For whom we are waiting? He will never come. We have to do on our own, and we have to suffer, and we have to suffer and live in this godless world. Here are my work cited. Is there any question?
My question is that what is your views about God is dead? Do you believe that God is dead?
uh, by looking at current situation, that we are waiting for a second coming, and he is not coming. And the in waiting for Godot, Valdemir and Estrogen are also waiting for Godot, but he never came. So we kept on waiting for Godot, but they never come. So I believe in this much cruel world, if God have ever existed, then he must have came here and saved us from this cruelty. But it is not so. So as per my point of view, the God is dead. Yes.
My question is what is your response on the idea of the existence of suffering and injustice in the world is incompatible with the existence of an all powerful and all loving God?
As per my point of view, we have lived, we are living, and we will live. So, if there is God or there is no God, it will never keep difference, and we have to live. So, that's all. Thank you.
Hello, good noon to everyone. Hello, good noon to everyone. On the 12th March, season 2, semester 2 presentation, my topic is modernism and postmodernism in waiting for Godot. This is my personal information. Points to ponder about the author, about the play Waiting for Godot, postmodernism in the play, modernist autonomy, and references. About the author, Beckett was born in 1906 and died in 1989. Beckett was an author, critic, and playwright, winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1969. He wrote in both French and English, and perhaps best known for his plays, especially and Attendant, Godot, 1952, Waiting for Godot. Beckett's life is a prologue to the work to see in his personal experience and explanation of his art. Retrospectively, to locate through biography, Beckett's work is attracted from the historical and biographical to existentialist, post-structuralist, and linguistic readings. The significance of language in Beckett is well articulated from its compelling tightrope dance between the obligation to express and the lack of anything to express to the paradoxically liberating importance Beckett found in writing in French. Samuel Beckett waiting for Godot in original French language. From mid 1940s onward, his biographical outline consists almost entirely of text written, published, and performed as though his life had seeked into his work, the one making way for the other. Even the Nobel Prize he received in 1969 had no greatest visible effect than to send him into hiding. About the play Waiting for Godot, Waiting for Godot, presented by Ireland's The Gate Theatre at Chicago's International Theatre Festival, was an exhilarating experience directed by Walter D. Esmus. The five actors, John Murphy as Estragon, Barry McGowan as Vladimir, Stephen Brennan as Lucky, Alan Stanford as Pozo, Imam Young as Godot's messenger, all gave strong performance in an ensemble that was elegantly balanced on its tragicomic edge. In Waiting for Godot, there are five male characters: Vladimir, Estragon, Pozo, Lucky, and the boy who comes as Mr. Godot. Mr. Godot was one type of titular figure. Uh, Lucky's speech brought him to an upright position, and once could glimpse in his soaring delivery something of what he had once been, but which began, of course, to disintegrate before us. Estragon was extremely self-absorbed, intent on getting a brief escape through sleep, often pulled back into routines by Didi or initiating them, but basically turned inward and poised to live poet and Christ figure, absorbed by his pain. Estragon in Waiting for Godot. He played a hopeful person. Vladimir, a hopeless person, and Vladimir was a hopeful person. Vladimir was a constant comic joy. One couldn't help but feel that he was a kind of Beckett incarnate, terribly good natured in his suffering, sing in the joke in it all but forbidden to laugh. He brought deep understanding of Beckett to the role and love of the play that gave the role and production warmth as well as intelligence and love to temper despair. postmodernism in the play. Postmodernism is marked by skepticism towards fragmentation and discontinuity. Postmodernism means different things from humble literary critical origins in the 1950s to a novel of global conceptualization in the 1980s. Uh, Waiting for Godot is indeed a play about the ruler and the ruled, which is one of the main features Beckett liked to describe in his works. The cross gender and the cross cultural performance can emphasizing or exaggerated that point, sometimes in a postmodern parodic way. The label of postmodern quality is an appropriate one to explain many of the recent and future performances of Waiting for Godot, because it is so common but not thought about carefully enough. Philip Edrin's Waiting for Godot had a contemporary urban atmosphere with its characters, rhythmical language. The postmodern quality that the self loses its rigid identity was a tiny productions of Waiting for Godot by the Ad Hoc Theatre Company in London in 1955. The Waiting for Godot is first performed in 1953 and written in the same year. Estragon and Vladimir were played by Palestinians in Arabic, while Pozo and Lucky were played by Jews in Hebrew, but Lucky's speech was in Arabic. It described the tragedy of Palestinians who were deprived of their land, the friction between Palestinians and Jews, and finally the possibility of their helping each other. In Waiting for Godot, is it mentioned Adam, the symbol of the whole human being, but sometimes they are nobody with no certainty about who they are and why they are there. In this play, there always exists a tension and an anxiety about their situation, which pulls us back to the modern sense of what is man. In this play, Waiting for Godot, there were all characters are waiting for Godot, and he will arrive for Godot, but Godot never come. Modernist autonomy, modernism is characterized by a belief in progress and rejection of traditional forms and emphasizing on individual experience and consciousness. Beckett's play Godot typifies the aspiration to aesthetic autonomy that has provoked deep suspicions of modernism among many politically motivated and socially conscious critics, and that complicates attempts to situate it anywhere at all. Godot, a difficult, opaque, and abstract play written by an Irishman in France and firmly absorbed into the traditional canon of European modernism, Waiting for Godot in New Orleans opens an ambivalent space in which new developments in modernist studies, especially the emerging field of transnational modernism, are brought into dialogue with existing debates within theatre studies, even as it calls both fields to take fuller account of aspects of modernism, particularly modernist autonomy. These are the references. If you have any query, then ask me.
Be quick in posting question. And say
Network issue. That's why. Network issue.
That's why earlier you have to do it. So two are there.
Yes. Anjali, my question is for you. How does Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot exemplify the characteristic of modernism?
Samuel Beckett's in Waiting for Godot exemplifies the modernism. Modernism is a and progress and progress and rejection of traditional forms and individual experience and consciousness.
Anjali, how can we read Waiting for Godot in modern context, whether as an absurd play or an existential play?
Uh, we can read Waiting for Godot in modern context with absurd play or existential play. In Waiting for Godot is postmodernist, share is a postmodernist play. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Aarti Sarvaiya. Today is the second day of our semester 2's presentation. In this presentation, I am going to deal with this topic, Waiting for Godot as an absurd theatre. This is my personal information. Points to ponder. Introduction, about the writer, about the play, Waiting for Godot as an absurd theatre, conclusion, and then references. Uh, First, the introduction of the term absurd. The term absurd was first used by Martin Esslin, a bottom review of absurdist writers takes things rationally, not romantically. A critic defines absurd as the absurd presupposes a human judgment. Only men can confront the disparity of experience. For this, Samuel Beckett's play, Waiting for Godot, is the masterpiece of absurdist play. Almost nothing happens throughout the play. The action takes the place on a stage presenting two characters, Vladimir and Estagron. The setting represents the post-war era where human existence becomes a challenging one. About the writer, Samuel Beckett was born in Dublin, Ireland. In his writing, he altered between English and French, and he translates his own works. He wrote 4 novels, 2 dramas, a collection of short story, essay, and art criticism. He post-war era. Buck, Samuel Beckett has settled in France and wrote in both French and English. In his play, we can find his experiences uh, and his experiences during the World War, which represent or give the shape of his writing. In his most famous work, the drama Waiting for Godot, he examines the most basic foundation of our lives with striking dark humor. About the play, Waiting for Godot is a tragicomedy which is written in 2 acts, and it is first published in 1952 in French as an attendance Godot and first produced in 1953. Waiting for Godot was a true innovation in drama and the theater of absurd first theatrical success. This play got the first theatrical success of an absurd theater. The play consists of conversation between Vladimir and Estragon, who are waiting for the mysterious Godot who never comes. Waiting for Godot as an absurd theater. The theater of absurd illustrates an attitude and a frame of mind towards life where human existence is a conundrum of illogical, senseless, and hopeless activity. The movement, activity, and chats or a conversation between the character of absurd drama do not carry uh, any real sense, and it is on this idea that Beckett penned his most famous popular work, Waiting for Godot. It does not have a proper plot or a proper setting. The talks and the actions of two central characters, Vladimir and Estragon, do not carry any real sense. And all this make Beckett's Waiting for Godot as an absurd play. Throughout the play, the only the conversation between Vladimir and Estragon is going on, and some of the conversation or some of the dialogue repeatedly repeats, and some of the conversation is meaningless. It is only happens only done the for the time pass. Here are some characteristics which characteristics of Waiting for Godot. Sorry, these are some characteristics of the absurd theater which we can find in the Waiting for Godot. First is the lack of action. The most significant feature of an absurd play is the lack of action. Either nothing or very little happen throughout the play. In Waiting for Godot, there is nothing significant happen throughout the play. There is only the waiting and waiting. Nothing more than happen in that play. Loss of identity. In an absurd drama, the characters lose their identity. In Waiting for Godot, the tramps have no identity, and even if they lose their identity in course of the action, their identity and their relationship are in doubt. They cover the day jointly, but they spent the night apart. Uh, in this play, Vladimir and Estragon's identity. Uh, Beckett doesn't give any information about except their names, their identity, what is the relationship between the both characters. That also doesn't define in this play, and both are for both. Life is like a rain of blow. Lack of plot and story. There is not any story about the characters. They do not go anywhere, remains in the same place, and uttered meaningless sentence. There is also the repetition of some of the sentences or conversation. Like, for example, this in this photograph, we can uh, see that this dialogue is very famous, and this dialogue is repeatedly coming in the throughout the play. Lack of characterization. Characters' past is unknown in the play and are directly introduced to the audience. Only their names and their miserable life is presented. In Waiting for Godot, also there is nothing defined about the characters except their name, where they come, and for where they go. That doesn't define in anywhere in throughout the play. No proper beginning and end. The play has no beginning and end. It starts with a situation and end with the same situation. Even the acts have the same kind of situation. Waiting is the key in the play, which shows a journey from nothingness to nothingness. There is no beginning and ending in this play, and and the key concept and the key idea of this play is waiting. The both characters are continuously waiting for a Godot, and this waiting is a theme of this main theme of this play, and it signifies the nothingness of the life, and useless dialogues. Most of the dialogue serves no purpose, especially lucky speech, highly symbolic, but apparently no meaning. Actions loses its importance because of unworthy dialogue and are just to return to pass the time. Some of the dialogues of this play are written only for the passing of the time, and some of the dialogues are repeatedly come, and we can find some of the conversation which we can consider that this is happened just because of the passing of time. And conclusion. Thus, The Waiting for Godot is an absurd play which mocks the futility of man's life and its meaninglessness. The whole background of the play reminds of a man's loneliness and alienation. There is a suffering, agony, anxiety, waiting, futility, and all sorts of absurdity. So, from the point of view of structure, theme, motive, character, atmosphere, setting, and language, we find that the play is an absurd one. And this is the references. Thank you. Now you have any question, then you can ask.
Aarti, how can we read Waiting for Godot in a modern context, whether it is an absurd play or an existential play?
In this play,
This question is this. No, now it is the right one. But that was the Anjali's question.
What are your views on whether Waiting for Godot is an absurd play or an existential play?
Most of the
You
characteristics.
have the same question you have asked.
No, sir.
This was Anjali, this question. The absurd or an existential play.
No, sir. In modern context,
And this is
Waiting for Godot, according to me, Waiting for Godot is an absurd play. There is a theme of, we can say that there is a theme of existentialism, because the waiting in Vladimir and Estragon continuously waiting for Godot, and we can say that they are waiting for their existential philosophy, and so according to me, it is a uh, an absurd play.
My question is that how would you examine waiting for Godot as an absurd theatre?
As I mentioned in my slides, that there is lots of characteristics which are similar similar to theater of absurd, and we can through that we can say that this is the an absurd play. Thank you.
Okay, so the questions that you are asking, so that also is the skill. As last time also we referred that how you ask question, grammatical correctness of question, from there to whether you are listening attentively or not. At least two presentations you have to listen attentively. And we know that when your presentation turn is still remaining, it is very difficult to remain attentive in listening others. So we have this scheme that after you present, you ask questions. So you are mentally free. But still, then also, everybody is not attentive in listening. You have to listen everybody, but we know that it is very difficult to listen everybody for 3 long hours. But at least two, you have to listen, and what they are presenting from that, you have to raise the question. What they are, you can pick up a line that you have said this in one of the slides. So what do you mean? Something more about that you can ask. And correctness of this, you can see your questions now also in the comment. Try to ask, try to see this, that whether that is grammatically correct or not. So how will you see that? You will ask your friend, then your friend also don't know whether it is grammatically correct or not. So how can you know that? So that is the huge problem, that where will you go to ask the expert about that? And so now we have chat GPT. So put your question to chat GPT and ask that, is this question grammatically correct or not? Or how in a better way this question can be asked? And you will get at least grammatically correct question. Content wise, it may be slightly wrong, but grammatically. So that way also. So you have some time while you are sitting here, you can quickly ask chat GPT whatever question you have, you get a response, and that you post here. So then your question will not be wrong. Question is your, but the problem is how to grammatically organize the words in a proper order. And that now it will be very difficult to teach. Normally in the school days, we learn sentence structures, interrogative sentences, another thing. હવે તો ઘડા બહુ પાકા થઈ ગયા એના માટે હવે એ ઘડવું કદાચ અઘરું પડે. So you can ask that question and then you can do. So try tomorrow this, doing this, and see whether you are getting a better result or not. Or you can also suggest that this is a kind of a content here, what can be possible questions. So content, so you will listen at least 5 minutes content, and then you will give to chat GPT. So our idea is that at least 5 minutes you listen the content. That is the purpose also. Hina presented on this bad faith. It was also good. Or most of you, all of you, like you can say, have a good content. Content wise, topic wise, things are very well presented, very well gathered also from various sources. Few of you try to add something of your own also. So bad faith also is a good topic also that you have selected. For I think the same thing, research gate, and that we have said that you can try to get to the original source from where it has come to ResearchGate or academia. So that you can see that, for example, in ResearchGate also, when you are there, they try to give you the citation reference. So you can see that where it is originally published. So something is given there. But this source also is rather incomplete because it is not giving the name of the journal. So you will have to copy this and again search. That, so that maybe you can reach to the original this. So this is where you reach when you do this. So this is some Nigerian journal wherein this is published, this article. And then here they are giving this APA things. So once you click on this, they are giving citation. You can download the citation text. So when you download the citation text, then you get this text in doc file. So it is in this it is in a text file. So if you open it in the Word file, let me open in one existing Word file. So it is something like this. This is still in APA. Now APA is to be converted into MLA. But how to reach that path I am showing you? It is not an easy task. It takes 30 minutes to just ascertain one task. So jaldi બધું થઈ જાય એમ ન થાય. It takes time, and that patience is required when you are working on this. But you can reach to the right. This is what we want, not ResearchGate. So this way you have to try, and then you can reach it. So we can give one or two examples, but every time we won't be able to do this. Now it is up to you to try to reach to the better source. So this is in Arabic language also, it seems, and that journal also is in that, and in French language also. So we have to also translate the language here. It is in France and Arabic language. You see the column, green color at the top right hand side. This was there. So Nigeria was a French colony. So normally it is in French or Arabic. And here it is showing that if you want to translate it in Gujarati also. Auto translates. Arab, yeah. Now you get this. The language, Arabic language it is. નહીતર તો એ અરેબિકમાં અરેબિક લખ્યું હોય તો ખબર ન પડે કે આ શું લખ્યું છે, કારણ કે અરેબિકમાં અરેબિક લખ્યું છે. So now in Gujarati we can say, okay, Arab means it is in Arabic language, and there we can say Angrezi and French. But see, these are there. Now we just can guide you કે આ રીતે તમે આ બધી વસ્તુ શોધી શકો. Research is doing everything. Now imagine this whole thing you have to do while traveling earlier. આ ટેકનોલોજી નથી ત્યારે તમારે આ બધી મુસાફરી કરીને લોકો ભેગું કરતા. એટલે કોઈ કે નાઇજીરિયામાં છે તો ત્યાં જાય નાઇજીરિયા, અને ત્યાંના કોઈ લેખિતમાં હાથે લખેલા હોય તો એ વાંચે. And then they have to do. Technology has eased our work, but we should not become lazy because of that. આપણે પછી લેઝી થવા માંડીએ કે તાત્કાલિક મળે લાવો ચપટી વગાડતા આપણે તો જોઈએ અહીં કટ કોપી પેસ્ટ કરીને ગરમા ગરમ ભજીયાની જેમ પ્રેઝન્ટેશન ઉતારવાનું છે. હમણાં 11 વાગે એટલે મારું પ્રેઝન્ટેશન ઉતરવું જોઈએ. So that way, so patience is, but compared to what? You have to travel a lot. It used to take couple of months. Now it takes couple of hours. But that we have to do to reach to the right place. And then you get the machine translation also. So in case something you are not understanding, at least it can help you also. કદાચ એ આર્ટિકલ બરાબર ન સમજાણો હોય તો થોડું ઘણું સમજાય. એ ભાષાંતર સંપૂર્ણ સાચું ન હોય વ્યાકરણની દ્રષ્ટિએ. It may not be correct because it is in Gujarati. So, but it can help also. So this way you have to reach to these journals, and you have to see that how it can help you. So this was the article in that journal. This is the PDF one, which you should have referred. So where you find all the details of this article. Okay, so that is one thing. That's how you have to go from ResearchGate or academic, because they are not original publishers. They are not original publishers. They are just an empty platform like Facebook or Instagram, where anybody can create account and upload whatever they want to upload. Normally it is for academics, so people upload research articles which are published at any other place. So my articles published at 10 places, I can have one ResearchGate or Academia account, and I will put there also. There also. But it doesn't mean the ResearchGate and Academia are publishing the articles. They are not publishing that. So that's why if I just design my article in this fashion, now I have this article, so I will keep the things there and I will change the content. So it will look like my article is published in Nigerian journal. But it may not be. And that is uploaded on ResearchGate, it is not reliable. So you'll have to go to this Nigerian website and ascertain whether there is this article or not. Otherwise, in ResearchGate or Academia, there may be dummy articles. There may be dummy articles also. That's why this is necessary to see. Okay, so that was there, and Hetal presented also well on Orwell. In your case, like yesterday also, the things where what you have cited is not there. This was Hina's, okay. So what you have mentioned in the work cited is not found in in-text citation. That matching is necessary, as yesterday I told. So if I try to see, for example, first is Baker. So Baker, if I search, then I can see only one result. At least two should be there. It means one is inside, one is outside. At least two. It should be more also. So whatever you are citing should be mentioned in text also. And this you cited from this, no? This repository. It is like InflibNet of this university, where theses are uploaded. But that thesis you cited, on which page is it? That link was required, because there are many pages. There are this all pages there. 14 pages are there. 14 long pages. So exactly on which page the article that you referred is there, that link is required. So if I am on, for example, second page, then you will see that in the URL index 2 will come. So if that link I am sharing, then I can directly come on this page and I can find the article which I am looking for. Then if I am on fourth page, then index 4 will be there. So you get an idea to study URLs also, that how the URLs are made by the website. And so when you get a kind of an awkward URL, you try to understand what may be the right manner or what is the mistake in the URL. If you study that, then you get that idea also. So using digital tools for research is also understanding all these things, that how people are, universities and various repositories, how they upload things and how people can search those. That experience is also necessary. Gopi presented on artist, the floating world, role of memory. Okay. Some of the links were not opening. So what you have done is that you have given this kinds of links, and this is not a correct way. G.co. So Google search link you have given. So when we try to see, it comes in this way. Then from here we are able to go to the article, but this exactly should have been cited, this itself, rather than that one, and this should open when you present that. And those problem of in text, that also you have to see. In text citation is missing also in there. You have referred to Woods and Middleton, I think, yeah. In one of the slides, yeah, here. This is a good way of writing. Amongst them, Tim Woods and Peter Middleton denote, and then you give a quote. This is what, if you see our rubric, the last point in the rubric is talking about this. Quotations are given. So, but at the same time, Woods and Middleton, from which article you have taken? That is not there. So either it should be with Woods and Middleton. So I will go and search W or Middleton M to find the source. But it is not there. Neither Woods are there nor Middleton is there. In the citation, it is not there. So that is how it mismatches also. Okay. Ghanshyam presented well, quite well it was presented. Okay. In one citation, you have mixed up APA and MLA. So that you need to see that those things are not mixed up. Gayatri also presented well. And there was a good this analysis from, I think you referred to Atkins analysis of this, which should have been referred time and again. Like you can say that when you write the this paragraph explanation of Lucky's speech, Atkins argues that Atkins further explains this in that way. Atkins added that these are the linguistic markers, that how you use this added, argued, explained, that way. So you keep on using the person whose source you are using and writing. If you don't do that, it seems on the slide that these are written by you, which is not the case. Explanation is, if you don't say that so and so is argued or this, then it seems like it is your explanation, but it is not so also. But when you present this gives, like there were lots of examples of tennis or golf. What does it mean, and how the writer here is trying to say with the cyclical nature of those things, those games and other things that it says. But you also would can think, or you can add your own way of looking at that. That even there are many other games which has a much better cyclical replica of this play than tennis or golf. For example, if you see cricket, then there is always this one inning and then second inning. So it is like two acts. It is like that. So soccer, football also, first half and second half. So there are many such games where the cyclical nature of the play is more found rather than tennis or golf also. So that way, Atkins' understanding of why tennis and golf is used seems to be incomplete also. If that is the case, then the writer might have better used cricket, which also is a national game of England also. So it is not unnatural for the writer to get cricket as a symbol to put here, or football also, which is quite popular in Europe, which has a more cyclical nature than golf kind of a thing, where there is more of an individualistic game. So that way you can counter argue also, and you add something of your own also. Drashti's also was good presentation, and in your article, when you refer to this, that at that time you have to see that this is this reference you have given by Shreyam Sharma. You cited also that in your article, various paragraphs. But who is Shreyam Sharma? What is the authenticity of his understanding? That is also very important, because if somebody is writing like this, then who is Shreyam Sharma? What is his? So when you try to look at that and you scroll down, you find that Shreyam Sharma is just a student only. Student at a National Academy of Legal Studies and Research in Hyderabad. So it is not very profound thing. It's not very deep. So before relying on that, we have to again question that also, or we have to try to look for the better resource for this, which can be coming from some very experienced person. So when you read this, you also see this. This is a campus voice. Print is the news journal online, and they have started a new column called Campus Voice. And there they are writing, Campus Voice is an initiative by the print where young Indians get an opportunity to express their opinions on a prevalent issue. Now, opinions are not very reliable thing, because in research we try to see that opinions and the source which are in journals, which are peer reviewed, where people have questioned that how you base your argument or your interpretations on that and a mere opinion, there is a huge difference between those things also. So this all also is a part of understanding research, that how at so many levels we have to keep our mind open when we rely on all these things also. Or we have to use some kinds of linguistic markers that Shreyam Sharma probably wanted to say this, possibly he meant this. So these markers will try to say that you are not believing completely into what so-and-so journalist or some student has written as a blog. You are using that source, but you are not completely relying or believing into that. How you can do? By using the word probable, maybe, possibly, kind of things. Okay, then Bhavyata also did good. So that there was a good like addition on your part, like how government exam papers are being leaked. So in that case, you have to add your own things. You have to think in your own way. So that way, it was a good, though there may be possibility of still thinking deeper way and questioning many other things also. But still, your own thinking comes when you compare the things. Then the way you think, that is a good way of putting the things also. One thing that we can see here is news items are there which that this happened, but the effect of that on the stakeholders, more stress on that is more important rather than what happened. So in the play, Godot is not important there, but what happens to these two people in the process of waiting is more important. The stress is here on the weight of these two people, and then what they keep on doing there. That can be concentrated. So more of video clips or the anxiety of students. If there are news items about how they try to commit suicide or how frustrated they feel, if any journalist has taken interviews of the students, if it is very well documented anywhere in a proper way, that becomes a significant part also in looking at this. While they wait, what they do, that also can be the concern. While they have to keep on waiting for next exam, what will they do now? What they try to look, that also can be seen. And the play tries to say that even if the Godot will come, it will be a hopeless situation. So even if the exams are conducted, what will happen? So if there are 9 to 10 lakhs of students are appearing for how many positions? A few hundreds. So what will happen to other people even if the exam will come? So what will be the level of hopelessness? So it is better the exams are not conducted. At least we are hopeful that someday I will pass. If the exams are conducted now, I have to face the reality, which is so harsh, and lakhs of students will have to face because seats are limited. So even if everybody will try, everybody will never get success. There is no possibility of everybody getting success. That is a very dire situation. A terrible situation is that that even if everybody will work, then also everybody will not get success. Only few will get. Then why are so many trying this? That is the hopelessness of the situation, which is so frightening. Also, if people try to face that, it is very frightening. So it is better not to face it. It is better that we don't face that reality. So that way you can extend that idea also. But it was good that you compared. Avani's also was good, and good references were also given, well explained also, those things. And resources also were well cited in that. I think only one you missed out, not being and nothingness. That writer you have not cited. Otherwise, all other things were appropriately done. In text also were found. Uh, Anjali has also good. Now you used very well. This you referred to some of the this gesture articles, and that were quite well used also in the article. Also, you at least two I have seen this Mariko Tanaka's article, Mariko Hori Tanaka's postmodern staging of Waiting for Godot, and you have taken some good paragraphs also from that. And Alice Moody, Waiting for Godot in New Orleans, Modernity, Modernist Autonomy. This were also quite well taken in your references. So that was good. It's a good example that what you cite, you should use that. But only thing that you have not used inside those names. So like if you read this paragraph, modernism in the play, it seems that this is what you are writing. If you say that Moody in this article mentions so and so kind of thing, and then you quote that, then it becomes more authentic. That is what you have to do. Otherwise, it looks like this is all is written by you. And then we have to search some of the lines. For example, this line, Estragon and Vladimir were played by Palestinians in Arabic, while Pozzo and Lucky were played by Jews in Hebrew, while Lucky's speech was in Arabic. So this I have done cross-checking, and then I came to that article that, okay, it is taken from this article. But that should be reflected from this slide itself, that this content is coming from which article. The last one was by Aarti. That also was well prepared and presented. You relied on this one article a lot, I think, Supriya Meithi's article. So that again you have to see that how authentic that is. Supriya Meithi's article you referred, but again the authenticity of that is doubtful. So too much relying on such content is something you can take, but this thinkingliterature.com also is not very authentic source of looking at the things. Okay, the content wise it was a good one there. Okay, so finally in your this Google Classroom task, still many of you have not put the thing. So today complete that also, incomplete task in Google Classroom. So it seems 55 tasks were given in total. So how many you have done and how many are incomplete, that figure you have to put. So tomorrow we will see that analysis of complete and incomplete tasks. Okay, fine. Let us end the session today.